startups. So in this situation, in this communication, we'll try to discuss about the key role of startups in economic effectiveness or literature review. Why literature review? Because different. First of all, I want to thank the interviewees to discuss about diversification and entrepreneurship. However, about startups, I think that there are just a few ones. I want to thank also Mrs. Jimmy to discuss about, to give some examples about the important startups that execute their activity here in Algeria. But we have to understand what does it mean startup. What is startup in reality? So the schedule of our presentation is organized as follows. We will try to start with an introduction. After that, some definitions about startups, because it's got different definitions. They didn't arrive to fix a definition for startups. After that, we'll try to make some points about some of the types of startups, what followed by the impact of startups on national and local economies, national and local economies. After that, the necessity of startup ecosystem for the ecosystem itself and for the region. What is the situation of Algerian startup scene? What Algeria create for enhance the startups? After that, I will try to make some points about the obstacles faced that face startups, that hamper the startups to survive, and we'll conclude with a conclusion and some recommendations. So about the introduction, we found that there is great necessity for diversification. We know that the population nowadays, it's 8 milliards people. Every individual needs some services, needs some products. So to satisfy this needs, different enterprises or different firms try to produce, to give services and products to satisfy these needs. The first one. The second one, that is technological development. Technological development, the digitalizations, the world of the internet. So we try to satisfy all these needs that I discussed before in using the internet. Also, different countries offer different policies and processes to improve, to encourage, to create a favorable environment for the entrepreneurs and the startups. Also, it appears as an important role for the individual entrepreneurs and startups in the other world, in the developed world, to other countries. Therefore, it appears the idea of a startup. What does it mean, startup? Startup. If you get the idea, you have to start to execute it. So about the definitions, until now, there isn't a fixed definition about the startup. For example, for the study of Eisenman in the 2012, he says that there isn't a fixed definition. About Steve 2010, a startup is a company, because a startup, it's a firm or a company or enterprise or organization. It's a company or partnership or temporary organization designed to search for a reputable and scalable business model. Scalable business model. In this situation, we have the scale. Also, following the studies, following Rise in the book, The Lean of the Startup. A startup is a venture designed to create a new product or service under market conditions of a great uncertainty. Maybe it fails, maybe it succeeds. A great uncertainty in the situation. About the different types, I try to select 3 groups of types. The first one is the types following the objectives. We have here objectives. In this situation, following the study of of Angelusi 2021, he divided the startups into five types of startups. The first one, small business startups, it's to produce a product, it gets idea directly. So it will create a startup to satisfy this needs to produce a product or a service. The second one, viable startups. In this situation, for example, a company creates, or an individual in a company creates a startup, and it will buy directly. For example, Belqasim Habba, the Algerian Belqasim Habba, he creates different startups in the United States, and it's by them directly to other entrepreneurs, and it's by them to the entrepreneurs to succeed. So also the scalable startups, as I mentioned before, the scalable startups is startups that follow scale. It's developed and improved step by step. Also, offshoot startups. Offshoot startups is startups that's created from huge firms. For example, if we can say Civital, for example, can create startups. In this situation, this startup, we call it offshoot startup. And the fifth type of startups in this situation is social startups. For no profit, or it's called also charitable startups for the society in general. The second type in this situation is both the creator. This type following the study of Lim, or in 2015, they divided the startups into three: student startups, venture startups, and youth startups. The student startups, because the first environment, or the first region of the ideas is the university. University is the environment where we find professors and students. Is the environment where the new ideas bright in the station. So if a student, as our students, some students, they have the right ideas in the station. If the students create startup in the station, it's the student startup. Venture startup is for the employee who gets some experience and try to create his startups. It is in this situation with technology. And youth startups is the startups for the individuals with more than 40 years old. The second one, in the situation, the third type of startups, it's approximately the same with the second one. However, in this situation, with the creator state, what's the state of this startup? Is it adventure, professional, or safety? Adventure, I get idea, I will try to create a startup, but I will face an adventure. Maybe it fail, maybe it succeed. So, however, for the second one, professional, the creator in the station have such an experience. For example, 10 or 15 years out in a company, and he gets the idea and will create his startup. In this situation, we call it professional startups. Safety startups, I get an idea, and I know that this idea will succeed directly. In this situation, it is a safety startup. About the impact of startups on national and local economies. Here I try to select 5 important points about the impact of startups. However, first of all, is generation of employment. As any enterprise or companies, the generation of employment is from the important effect of important positive effects of startups or a company in the society. It's create and generating employment. The second one is improving production and productivity. The second one, improving innovation level, because startup is a bright idea. We can't say that I create startup, that I will create a small project, that it exists. So, improving innovation level, that the startup have a bright idea, a good idea, the creator implant it in the market. So even other countries, for example, even other firms think this is a bright idea that this creator implanted. Why not? We can bring students or employees to get more ideas. Fourth, improve competitive level. This startup has an improvement, so I will try to create a startup and I will compete. Therefore, it will improve the competitive level between firms and startups. The fifth point is believing in our own capacities. Because the startup is created with an individual, if he will succeed, so the other ones, if we can see them from another point, is genius. Why the other students or the other startups succeed? So also I have the ability to succeed to create my startup. So in this situation, it's create the more belief in the own capacities of the individual. Reduce risks of levels for the enterprises, because it's related with the fifth point, because the startup have an idea, so it will cover some side in the activity. So he will reduce the risks of the risk for the other firms. The seventh point, attract investment from venture capitalists and angel investors. A bright idea can attract the finance and the investors from other sides. However, lately, two Algerian groups succeed in the Huawei international competition. This can attract the eyes of the financial investors in the world, because these Algerians from, I think, 10,000 or 15,000 groups in the world, just two Algerians attract the first and second position is not easy. So they will attract the eyes of the others. It's the same thing. If I get a bright idea and it appears, so it can attract the financial investment of the investors in the country or outside the country. Increase the economic growth of the country as the other firms, and also increase the ability to create new markets and pure innovation. For example, if talk about, for example, the examples presented by Mrs. Jamay about the Déchi. It's a new market created. So the others can think about this market to invest in this edition. So about the ecosystem. So after the impacts of the startups, about the ecosystem in general of the startups contains 6 points. First of all, the university, because the university is the region or the environment where the ideas bright appear. Second one is funding organization. The funding organization, if an idea doesn't have financial resources to be implemented in the market, so it will disappear directly. Third point is services providers, for example, legal. Until now, they didn't arrive to, for example, about legal, they didn't arrive to fix what is the legal status of a startup. Is it an enterprise? Is it even in other countries? So, about legal companies to cover this side of startups to be safe in the market. Research organization, of course, to get you have an idea, and to implement it, you have to develop your idea to be acceptable in the market. I got the idea, but about the marketing side of this idea, is it will be acceptable from the market or not? I don't know. So in this situation, the research organizations, the role of research organization appear in the situation and contribute to cover this side. Also, the support organizations from the government. For example, I got an idea, I got the finance, but I don't have if our idea will succeed or not. Even if I fail, does the government give me guarantees to cover my debt or not? So, in this situation, the support organizations have the role. And 6th point is large companies as incubators to cover the startups. So the ecosystem in general of the startups is contain this 6th point. About the Algerian situation, as we know also, as we know that they're following the importance getting to the startup, they create a special ministry. This special ministry for the startups, and launching label that's for the different universities in the country to improve, to enhance the students and to inform them, even if they, I think that it didn't arrive to get the right or the whole information about the startups, but it's a good idea to give them the maximum information about the startups. And the 3rd point is the creation of Algerian startup funds. Algerian startup funds is about this funds. It will destinate to the three types of startups, as I discussed before. For example, for student startups and adventure startups, they have the ability to get until 5 million dinars. However, for professional startups, or they called also venture startups, they have the ability to get until 2 million dinars. And for your startups and safety startups, because they have all information about the market and the idea, etc. So they have the ability to get until 15 million dinars. This is as, for example, our own sage or roadmap for entrepreneurs. But I think this is new. They have the maximum guarantees, because the startups, as I said before, they have uncertainty. Maybe it succeed, maybe it fail. This following this, I tried in this point to cite 3 important startups that that execute here in Algeria. The first one, I think, this is Siamos execute in the health sector with a score of 46,149. Second one is here. And the 3rd one is global opportunities. These 3 startups based on the digitalization. But does the startup just execute in digitalization, or it doesn't appear? This is a great question. This is a great question about the startup itself. About the obstacles. All the obstacles, all the main points of failure of the startups. I said before, in the ecosystem, the government. Here, the government is the first obstacle. If the startup doesn't have a government support, it will disappear directly. Even if the government creates policies, but the problem is the execution of these policies. Does it execute in the right way or in the wrong way? Second one, fear of failure. I have got the idea, but I fear. I have a failure of maybe it will succeed, maybe it will fail. So in this situation, it creates an obstacle that I will, because in the first point, there isn't a government support, there isn't a guarantee that if I get the debt of 5 million dinars and I fail in this, and I fail in my startup, so it will, I will get the debts on myself all my life. This is a situation that even if in the fear of failure, I haven't the ability to pursue this, to pursue this adventure. Third point, lack of time and resources. I got the idea, following the word startup, I have it's obliged to start now, because if I share the idea with another one, maybe it will take it directly. So my idea, he will execute my idea. Therefore, lack of time and resources from the obstacles. Also resources, financial resources. I got the idea, but even if I prepare documents to get loan, maybe it will take 2 or 3 months. 2 or 3 months, maybe other persons can create my idea with their own finance. Fourth point, lack of experience. Lack of experience, it's appeared to the students and student startups. Because even if they have the idea, but they haven't the ability to execute it. As the professor said before, there is entrepreneurial education here in the university, but does the student have the experience to execute it and to implant it in the reality? Yes or no? As I said, 70% of 20% they are employed. However, the others are unemployed. Did they create their enterprises? No, this is a mistake. This about the experience. Lack of fixed plans or schedule. I get the idea, I get a bright idea, but I can't fix what are the steps that I should follow to get my idea in the market. Management neglection, for example, for even about the informatics and digitalization, they don't have basics of management and management, so they can create idea. They can create their startups, but they don't have information about management, so they will fail directly. Irrational utilization of resources and raw materials. For example, for the persons or the individuals who have got a bright idea, but instead of using cheap raw materials, they get to use, for example, expensive raw materials, so they will fail directly, because following the uncertainty, so it will expand their money to get an expensive raw material. Maybe it exists, maybe it's have, for example, to import it from abroad, so it will cost expensive even for him, or even for the seller, for the customer, so it will fail directly. Ineffective funding. Ineffective funding, for example, for the students, even if he get an important and bright idea, but as we said before, for students, they have the ability to get until 5 million dinar. Maybe it's to create to get the idea in the market. We have he needs at least 10 million dinars, for example. So in the situation, ineffective funding, it will fail directly.
Monsieur BOUROUAHA, si vous permettez, aller un peu plus vite.
And lack of marketability. Marketability is related with lack of management. I create an idea, and I don't have the way to make it in the market. I don't have to make marketing for this this idea. So in the situation, it will fail directly. So directly as a conclusion, we know that the startups, as I said before, they have important step and important effect on the economic and in different sides, such as innovation, job creation, economic growth, etc. However, it got a negative side faced followed by the obstacles faced. As I said before, so as recommendations, it's necessity for the Algerian government, especially for the Algerian government, to create a suitable and economic system to follow the startups from the beginning till the growth. Second one, cover the new startups in the aim of helping them when facing problems as guarantees, and prepare suitable environment that accept the idea of the startups. And thank you for your attention.
Voilà.